Good morning. We're going to begin today with some singing. Today's sung prelude is Return Again, which is in our teal hymnal, number 1011, if you are a person who likes to look at the notes on the page. The lyrics will be behind me very shortly. There we go. All right, so let's begin. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm John Emond with our board announcements for today. My pronouns are he and him. We have actually 5 announcements today, but first let's have our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered and unceded Algonquin-Anishinaabe territory. The Algonquin and Anishinaabe people are the customary keepers and defenders of this territory, the Ottawa River watershed. We honor their long history here, recognize the harms done to Indigenous people, and commit to learning from the past and walking with Indigenous communities towards reconciliation and self-determination. The Journey Group has been so well received that we're pleased to announce that a second group will be starting tonight. This one will be online using Zoom. The 90-minute session begins at 6:30. Please see the EUU for the link. The regular date, time, and frequency of this group will be determined by those in attendance. Emma Lilly, is she here today? There she is. Will be at the back of Worship Hall immediately after the service, and then at the information table in Fellowship Hall should you have any questions. Next, an important date to mark on your calendar. During the fall congregational meeting on October 18, the motion to authorize the mortgage or lien of the congregation's property was tabled, and then it was withdrawn to be considered later. The board has received legal advice and has revised the motion. The revised motion will be presented to the membership at the special congregational meeting on Sunday, January 25, following the day's service. Members of the congregation will be able to participate in this meeting in person or via Zoom. Details regarding participation in the meeting and the revised motion will be distributed to members shortly. Please mark this date and time in your calendar and plan to attend. Are you new or feeling new? Introducing ourselves as a casual meetup for newcomers coming up this Sunday, January 18, between 12 and 1:30. Share what brought you here and learn about FirstU and Unitarian Universalism over a light lunch. You can find out more and register at the welcome table or by emailing welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And good news, after our service, conversations will be held each week and we invite you to participate. Come share thoughts and perspectives about the themes from today's service. What grabbed you and what are your takeaways? Did you learn something new? Grab some good food from Fellowship Hall and join Peter and others in the lounge off the lobby by the office at around 12:45. Coffee will be available in the lounge. And lastly, in the evening of Tuesday, February 3, have some fun and develop skills for strengthening your relationships. How? Come to the interactive workshop, Empathy, the Superpower of Connection. See the EUU and website this coming week for more information. Thank you.
Good morning. It's been a while. I missed you. Oh. I'm Reverend Lara Cowtan. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm delighted to be here with you all this morning. I'm joined today in the chancel by our worship associate, Alexis McKenzie, and by our fantastic music director, Jan Bernson, and we've got Jody McIntosh, and all of you here with us today. It is so good to be here together this morning. If this is your first time here at the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa, or if you've been coming here for decades, you are welcome here. And if you're joining us online, hello, we see you. We know that you are part of this community. Even when you're not physically present, you're here in spirit. And I invite you to greet one another in the chat. Just say hello and where you're joining in from. And whoever you are, and however you express you and who you are and how you love in the world, you are welcome here. We hope that this morning helps you to find and keep your balance and help you to lead lives of integrity, service, and joy as you journey through the world. Today, we are going to continue to explore our month's theme of awakening wonder. We invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our opening hymn. It's number 1068, Rising Green. It'll be on the screen here too. Thank you.
love that we're starting the day with one of my favorite hymns. Our centering words today are from the back of the gray hymnal, number 434, by an anonymous author. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Now, do we have a helper for this morning for lighting the chalice? A show of hands? Awesome. We light our chalice to these words by Sean Trapp, "A Fire in the Universe." Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It's a reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our smallness and our short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known. And now we invite you to join us in singing our chalice song.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jody McIntosh, the Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she and her. And this morning I have a story for you called The Everything Seed, A Story of Beginnings by Carol Martinacco. Sorry, Carol, if I butchered your name. So I invite anyone young or young at heart to come and join me. Good morning, Misha. All right. Have you ever thought about what was there before there was something? If you have a look up at my screen here, maybe there was nothing before there was something. I don't know. But that's what we're going to assume in this story. So once, long, long ago, way back before the beginning, so long ago, there was no such thing as time because there was no one to count it. Everywhere was a huge, deep, mysterious place like something waiting to happen. There was no stars, no moon, no sun. There was no place like Earth. Not a drop of water, or a single tree, or rock, or flower, and no living beings anywhere. But in that deep waiting space was hidden the tiniest point. It was something no bigger than a tiny seed. It was not a flower seed, it was not an elm tree seed, it was not a seed of corn, although all those things were included in this seed. You might call it an everything seed, because that is what it became. No one knows where that first seed came from, or how it was planted, or how it knew in the way that only seeds seem to know how long to wait for just the right moment to sprout and grow. But all at once, this tiny seed, cradled and nourished in the richness of the space, woke up, broke open, and began to unfold. Unfolding and unfolding and blooming forth. Blooming forth into an enormous, blazing ball of bright light. Like a great grandmother, son. And the universe was born. Out fluttered the galaxies like a storm of snowflakes swirling and gathering into the brightest, most blindingly beautiful cloud of stars. And out of those star clouds whirled our own star, the one that we call the sun, and our earth and the moon and all the round spinning planets we have learned. And this is the secret of that tiny seed. You and I were there in the very beginning. We all came from that tiny seed. Just as the idea for each leaf of a big oak tree lies hidden in an acorn, we were there with all the stars and the planets, all the rocks and the oceans and the plants and the animals and the people. Everything that is now and ever was or ever will be was inside that first tiny seed. So, whenever you hold a seed in your hand and wonder what it could possibly become, imagine how you and all that is here once came from a seed just like that, the tiniest speck of an everything seed, before it sprouted and grew long, long ago in the way back beginning of time. And now, if this were an ordinary story, it would end right here. But it is not. This story of the universe, it keeps on unfolding. And what once began in a blazing blossom of light continues every day. New stars sprout open in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of many kinds are scattered all over the earth to help us remember. And new people are born every day with that spark of the very first light, still alive and burning deep inside, waiting. Waiting like the everything seed to shine in ways that are yet to be known. Thank you. I have a couple announcements for my RE families. It's a new year, so we have a few new routines. As most of you know, we now have enough children to have 3 classes instead of just 2. So we are splitting our classes today. So all the children are going to come down with us to the chalice room, and then we are going to separate you into your new classes from there. After the service, we're doing things a bit differently. We aren't going to be bringing the children up to Fellowship Hall. All the children will be collected from room 2, which is the chalice room. That way, it's easier for us to see who's coming and going, and all of our RE helpers will be there. The next thing that is also new is we are starting to introduce something called the Chalice Room Cafe. Some of our parents have asked for a quieter place to be with their kids after the service because we have been growing so much that Fellowship Hall is overflowing. So room 2 is going to be open for any families who want a quieter space, any families and their guests. If you want someone from the congregation to come down with you to chat, that's great too, but this is going to be mostly a family space. And for now, if the parents want to come and grab a coffee first and then come down, please do. But please come down within 10 minutes of the service ending. And we will be down there to greet everyone. We will also have a table still available in fellowship hall for any families who want to come up and don't want to be downstairs. Thank you very much. We will now sing our children on our way, and if you can send them some love, that would be amazing.
Each time that we gather for worship, we set aside a moment to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. We gather here together, trusting that this community is wide enough and deep enough to hold both our sorrows and our joys, our challenges and our celebrations. Together we recognize the cycle of life and death and the circle of love and compassion and witness that are at the center of this and every sacred community. Let us prepare our hearts for this time of healing with the singing of our bowl. It is the tradition of this community to drop stones in bowls of water, and the stones represent what we carry in our hearts, whether they be light or heavy, that the ripples through the water course through all of us and out into the world with all of our care. From our larger world community today, we place a stone in grief and in witness for Renee Nicole Macklin Good, who was killed in Minneapolis on January 7th. We grieve the violence that took her from this world, holding all who suffer under violence and abuse of power near and far. And we place a stone in gratitude and in hope for the troop of Buddhist monks who are walking 2,300 miles from Texas to Washington, D.C. as a prayer for peace in a world shaped by violence and haste. They choose patience, presence, and compassion. May their journey strengthen our faith that small and faithful acts can and do indeed ripple outward. From among our community today, we have 3 cards for folks to sign at the table at the back and add their wishes. And we share a stone of care and healing for Carmen Contreras. And we'll send our prayers to her this Tuesday as she undergoes surgery for possible lung cancer, and in the following days as she begins her recovery. And a stone of sorrow as we mourn the death and celebrate the life of Ken Edwards, who died on Friday in hospital after a bout with pneumonia. Our hearts and care are with Ken's daughter, Jennifer, and their family. I invite you now to come forward as you feel moved to do so and to share your own stones of celebration and sorrow with this caring community. The last stone, as always, represents those pieces of our hearts that we hold in silence. Let us join in a moment of silent reflection in prayer.
This morning's anthem is Gwaza Universe by Nick Page. A gwaza is a sort of a layer song or partner song, which is where there are different melodies that are layered on top of each other, but this is a South African variation where you'll notice that while each part has its own individual rhythm, it all comes together for one moment in the text. And in this piece, that moment is when you say the words of the universe. So listen for that as all the parts come together. They will all line up for those words, for that text. And we have Susan Carlton joining us today on piano, and this is a drop-in choir, so everyone learned the song this morning.
With the eyes of the universe.
Will our ushers please come forward? Thank you. The offerings collected each Sunday help us to live into our values within this congregation and in supporting many good works beyond our walls. We know that we are bound up with each other and our partners in the world, and that generosity is an expression of our faith. During the entire month of January, our Sunday collections, unless marked towards your pledge, will be split with our community partner, the 10 Oaks Project. I now invite the Executive Director, Kimani Montgomery, to share more about this valuable organization as our ushers are passing the baskets around. Please give as generously as you are able.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kimani Montgomery. I'm the Executive Director of the 10 Oaks Project. I use any pronouns. Thank you so much for welcoming me into this space and for supporting our organization. There's a little bit of information about 10 Oaks on the back of your programs, but just raise of hands, how many people have heard of 10 Oaks before? Oh, wow. Okay, amazing. Wow. So for those who haven't, 10 Oaks is a grassroots charity based here in Ottawa that has been providing life-saving programs and services for children and youth from queer families, queer identities, and queer communities for the past 2 decades. I make that distinction for who we serve because people often think that we are a space simply for children who identify as queer and trans. However, the genesis of our organization was actually for the children of queer and trans parents. And so children who don't necessarily identify within the community themselves, but their parents do. And they experience levels of homophobia and transphobia based on the ways that the world treats their parents. So I always like to speak that into existence and help people understand that our space is for queer spawn as well as queer and trans youth. So I've been at the organization for almost 5 years now, and I'm always amazed at the amount of work that such a small organization does. Right now we have 4 full-time staff members, which is the most we've ever had in our organization's history. However, we serve hundreds and hundreds of families every single year. Our camp programs hosted nearly 200 youth this past summer, and our community programs, which are based here in Ottawa, and they're offered virtually and in person, served hundreds of families and children in this city. For Camp 10 Oaks, we awarded $108,000 worth of subsidies to youth who need it, and we have very, very low barriers in terms of subsidy requests. We don't want anyone to be excluded from camp because of barriers. We don't want families have to choose between paying the hydro bill and sending their kids to this life-saving space that they need to go. We also had 44 cities represented in our camp this past summer, as well as a couple states from the US. We had campers fly in from Texas, campers drive up from New York State. We had a camper fly in from New Brunswick as well. Because there aren't too many places like Camp 10 Oaks that exist. All of our community programs that are offered here are completely for free, and I want just folks to know that this is a space where they can go if they need it, if they need resources, if they need information. And I'm really thankful to be in this space, and this kind of feels like camp itself. You know, camp, people sing songs, people chant, people cheer, people cry when they feel moved too, and so I'm really thankful to be in this space and to be here with you all today, and we can't do the work that we do without support from folks like you, so thank you so much, and I will be in the coffee hour with a little table set up with some shirts and sweaters and some brochures. If you're interested in coming to chat, I would be happy to speak with any of you. Thank you so much, take care.
We now ask everyone to turn to number 530 in the gray hymnal, or you can also look at the screen above for a responsive reading, which is Out of the Stars by Robert T. Weston. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here have we come, stardust and sunlight, mingling through time and space. out of time before time, in the vastness of space, earth spun to orbit the sun, earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas. Mystery hidden in mystery, back through all time, mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea. Ponder this thing in your heart, life up from the sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love. We made it.
Do you remember the moment when you first realized that the moon wasn't just yours? Okay, maybe it's just me. But I remember, as a child, I watched it carefully. Anybody here with that? Like, you spent a lot of time looking at the moon. I watched how it changed shape, and how it followed me home, how it seemed to hover just above the trees. And I learned the basics of the solar system in school, and I played with, those little models around planets circling the sun, and that mostly made sense to me. And, even solar eclipses could be explained, and I thought that was really neat. But I still talked to the moon. I'm sure I heard a response. I greeted her like an old friend, and I felt in a very real way that she was watching over me, that we shared some special kind of quiet understanding, a relationship. It wasn't until much later, as an adult, when I moved to Southern California, that I noticed something very unsettling about my moon. It looked wrong there. The crescent that I was familiar with lay at a strange angle. It had tipped sideways in the sky like she had slipped. No one else thought it was odd. This had always been their moon at that angle. The same moon that I knew and loved and trusted, being viewed from another place by another people. And suddenly it landed. Everyone on earth sees the same moon that I did, but from their own perspective. It's completely upside down in Australia. And she gazes back at us all with the same warm, loving relationship. In that moment of discovery and humbling, I felt very small, but also part of something larger than I had ever imagined. And I wonder if that's something like what our ancestors felt when they realized that the earth was not only not flat, but not the center of the universe after all. When the cosmos expanded beyond the familiar stories that we had told ourselves about our place within it, how very unsettling. But this is where science tells us something very startling and very beautiful. The atoms in our bodies were forged in the hearts of ancient stars. Carbon, oxygen, iron, born in stellar furnaces, scattered by supernova and gathered over billions of years into planets and oceans and cells, and eventually into us. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable fact. 'Tis scientific. For Unitarian Universalists, this scientific story can function as a kind of theology, not about a distant intervening deity, but about belonging. We are not visitors to the universe, we are participants in it. The same laws that govern galaxies shape our very breath. The same evolutionary processes that formed coral reefs and maple trees shaped human curiosity and compassion and conscience. Cosmic time humbles us. Our lives are brief flashes in a 13.8 billion year unfolding. And yet cosmic time also dignifies us. Out of vastness and chance has arisen our capacity to wonder, to ask questions, to love, and to choose how we live together. Awe, in this sense, is not passive amazement. It is an ethical stance. When we understand ourselves as stardust made conscious, care for this fragile planet and for one another becomes not optional, but natural. This way of holding science and spirit together is not new to Unitarian Universalism. In fact, it is one of our defining strengths. When Charles Darwin, a Unitarian, published On the Origin of Species in 1859, the scientific implications unsettled many religious communities. The theory of evolution challenged literal interpretations of Scripture and disrupted long-held assumptions about humanity's special place in creation. That special place being the Lord's over all other creation. But for many of our Unitarian and Universalist forebears, this was not a threat to faith or understanding of religion. It was an invitation to deepen into it. I'm going to get into some academics today, and I know that many of you love that. And so, yes, there are notes and homework at the back. Pick up a page if you want some reference material. At the turn of the 20th century, the Universalist minister, Marion D. Shutter, delivered a series of lectures exploring what he called applied evolution. Reverend Shutter argued that religion must look honestly at facts as they are, and reason carefully and humbly, and then trust that the laws shaping the universe are not obstacles to meaning, but expressions of it. Shutter wrote, "We have not lost God. We have only lost an old idea of God's way of doing things. The God of evolution is inside of nature, not outside of it." This was a faith spacious enough to grow, a faith willing to let go of certainty in order to remain truthful, a faith rooted in wonder. A century earlier, before Reverend Shutter's theories, philosopher Immanuel Kant articulated something essential about this very posture. Kant wrote that there are two things that filled him with ever-increasing awe: the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. That was a great piece of philosophy at the time, and also unsettling to many. The starry heavens and the moral law. Long before we knew what the stars were made of, Kant intuited that looking outward into vastness awakens something inward, and cosmic wonder and ethical responsibility arise together. And the more deeply that we contemplate the universe, the more seriously we are called to live our values. In the 20th century, this intuition was carried further by the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead. Any Whitehead fans out there? It's a small group. It's pretty dense. But Whitehead's work would profoundly influence modern theology, including Unitarian Universalism. Whitehead developed what came to be known as process philosophy, and its religious expression, process theology. In his landmark work, Process and Reality, which has been compared to Immanuel Kant's critique of pure reason, Whitehead challenged the idea, rooted in classical physics, that reality is made up of static, isolated objects. Instead of that, he described the universe as a dynamic web of relationships, not static, always changing, always becoming, always in process. All things flow, he insisted, echoing the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus. In process theology, change is not a problem to be solved, it is the fundamental nature of reality itself. Nothing exists independently. Everything has been shaped by relationships to everything else. Every movement carries forward what has come before and contributes something new to what comes next. There's a flow. This vision resonated deeply with liberal religious thinkers, as you could imagine. Process theology offered a way to speak about meaning and value and even God without denying science, without stepping outside of the laws of nature that shape galaxies and cells alike. For process theology, the sacred is not found in supernatural interruptions or influences of the world, but within the processes of the world themselves, in creativity, in relationships, in responding to things, in becoming. This way of thinking flows directly into our Unitarian Universalist understanding of faith as a living tradition. We say that our tradition is not fixed or finished, but continually unfolding, responsive ever to new knowledge, to new voices, to new moral insight. This is process theology lived in our congregational form. This is what we do in relationship with one another. Whitehead's influence carried into Unitarian thought through theologians such as Henry Nelson Wyman, who had a better way of interpreting Whitehead than many others, and a much easier read. Wyman was a leading figure in religious naturalism and spoke of what he called creative interchange. It's the idea that transformation happens when people come together with openness and trust and a willingness to be changed by one another. This is what we do every time somebody new comes into our space. We are changed by them. We do not expect or even want people to come and conform to who we are. This is process theology lived in a congregation. Wyman spoke of this and what happens when people come together with openness. And for Wyman, the sacred was not a being, but a process. The process by which human relationships give rise to greater meaning and justice and love. It's about relationship. At their best, congregations embody this vision. You all are doing this together. We become places where meaning is not something handed down in a single book, but something that is discovered together. Where faith is not something we possess, but something we practice in relationship, in covenant, in community, in showing up. So seen this way, through a lens of process theology, community itself becomes a sacred process. And when we understand ourselves as part of an ever-expanding web of life across families and across congregations and ecosystems and generations, the implications are profound. What happens to one, wherever they are in the world, happens to all. Responsibility is shared. Care ripples outward. In a universe that did not promise meaning, we are meaning makers. In a cosmos that gave us everything we are, we are called to respond with humility, with curiosity, and reverence. The biologist Edward O. Wilson once wrote that for those who have truly embraced the scientific story of our origins, the history of life and the universe becomes more than a sequence of events. It becomes our sacred story, a creation story in which we recognize ourselves as, and I quote, reworked stardust. Biological beings with a multi-billion-year pedigree. Astronomers often say that contemplating the vast universe doesn't make them feel smaller, it makes them realize the larger story of which they are a part. And that, perhaps, is the heart of awakening to wonder. The path of wonder is not about feeling insignificant or small in the universe. It is about feeling connected. So, my friends, don't just look up at the stars and the moon this month. Let our looking up lead to looking across at one another, at this earth, at all of our neighbors on it. The fragile and beautiful web of life that we share. May we not simply be astonished by the universe. May we also feel it in our very breath, that we are a part of it. Amen. I invite you to rise in body and in spirit and join in singing this hymn that Jen's going to lead us in. It's a simple one, but it could be a lot of fun, right, Jen? Yeah. Where do we come from?
For this one, I'm going to suggest that we do it the whole way through, and then you can do it as a round. So I have some folks here who are singing. We'll go first. If you're on this side of the room here, you can go first, and if you're on this side, you can go second. I'll try to help you by bringing you in. So here we go.
As we extinguish this flame, let us remember the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe, the light of truth, the fire of commitment, and the warmth of community. And these we carry in our hearts until we're together again. And I leave you with these words by William Blake. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in the wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. Go in peace, go in love, go in wonder. And we sing our closing song, Spirit of Life.